Hello, everyone. This is John Maddox. I'm in sunny Southfield, Michigan here today. It's getting pretty close to 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and you can see the sun's glaring in my window, and it's kind of obstructing the video a little bit. So hopefully that's not going to bother you. So what I want to talk to you today is, and before we get into everything, hey, I got this awesome website called communityreviews.org. It's pretty cool. Go check it out if you get a chance. So today I want to talk about how I've taken my 10-day week that I used for many years and got a lot of success with, won 7 national deadlifting titles, and how I've condensed it down to training twice a week. So I'm actually training, even though I'm doing a 7-day week, I'm only training each major muscle group, right, every 7 days, right? So you got upper body and you got lower body. So with lower body, which I normally do on Tuesday, and then I have upper body, which I do on Friday. So the reason why I like to do lower body on Tuesday is because of my chiropractor, Matt Zwang. His office is not open late in the week anymore. So for me to see him, I normally see him on Monday because I like to have whatever adjustments that I need to make sure everything's lined up. I like to make sure he lines me up before I squat, right? So that way I don't have to worry about being not in the right position. All right. And then normally I see another individual who I brought in April of last year, a specialist in the sacrum, Dennis Novelli. I know Dennis has probably been waiting for me to give him a nod, but yeah, Dennis has been great. So I brought Dennis in April of last year because my injury wasn't getting better. All right. So the injury happened in April of 2020. So how far back is this now? So it's going to be April 2022. Just as I was coming back for these surgeries, I was looking like I was going to hit some big things, and I had a piece of gym equipment malfunction, jammed right up into my hip. And at first, I didn't realize. I just thought I hit something, right? No big deal. I'll just walk it off, and I ended up knocking my sacrum out and my hip out. Didn't realize it. So Dennis, finally I brought him in to help me with my sacrum. So what was happening is chiropractor first to get ready to train, and then Dennis afterwards to put everything back in. So after 4 months of that, my hip popped back in, the sacrum popped back in, and then the last 6 months, it's all I've been doing is working to get the injury, the hip, strong enough so I can lift the weights that I need to lift. And it's really been coming together. It's been coming together very quickly, and I'm very happy with it. Because right now I'm lifting weights that I never thought I would lift again after the injury. I got to the point where I thought I would never figure it out. And I thought I was done. So the fact that I'm back, I can lift the weights that I'm lifting, I'm very happy. All right, so let's get to the summary. So on Tuesday, it's squats, right? And then I usually start off with box squats, right? I'll move it. And like I said, as we move forward here, I'll start covering each one of my weekly workouts. So you get an understanding of what exercises I worked out with and what I did, the poundages, stuff like that. Because I think that's easier than me just trying to tell you I did X. And then you're like, well, my assistance is different. I don't want to use that. I want to do something else, right? So I squat first. I always squat first, all right? And if your legs aren't getting stronger, your deadlift is not going to get stronger. All right, cut out leg presses. All right, we already had the video about the duplicative exercises. If you're squatting and deadlifting, you do not need to do leg presses. They are an overtraining exercise. All right, so I put all my effort into the squat first. All right, and then after I'm done squatting, and it doesn't matter if I'm boxing or doing regular or doing halves or doing negatives. All right, then I have to move to the deadlift. And what I do with the deadlift, since I'm already training my legs, it makes no sense to deadlift off the floor when you're combining them to the same day. So what you would do then is usually do your deadlifts from roughly around mid shin, or right now I'm doing a tad higher than mid shin. All right, and so I'm doing deadlifts from that position because for me, that's the hardest part. That's your lower back. That's just not the lifting off of the floor. And I have a lot of issues with getting it past my knees for lockout when I'm going more of a sumo position compared to conventional. Conventional is always challenging to get off the floor because I have a lot of fusions in my spine, and people think, well, man, that fusion should help you. But it actually, when you have a lack of flexibility, it forces you to have to move the weights farther than what you would like to. So even though I got scoliosis, If I'm trying to deadlift conventional, which I've done in most of my meets, it forces me forward, and I have to lift more weights in not in the exact best position. I guess it's the easiest way to explain it. So, and it's caused me to miss lifts at meets before. So after you do the deadlift, then you would do your assistance. Shrugs would be my first assistance afterwards, and I like to do heavy shrugs. So those I do in the rack. And then after that, I love my glute ham, right? So I'm just giving you some, ideas of things that I like to do. I like to do the hip thrust, but I alternate those every other week. And in the weeks I'm not doing the hip thrust, I'm doing the one-legged leg presses to make sure my legs are balanced. Then I always do some ab work. I usually do seated crunch. And I always do some hip stuff, right? So I like to do these where you bring the hips out, and I do those for a lot of reps. I do the entire stack for like reps of 50. I'm getting ready to start moving up to 60. And that's kind of what lower body day looks like. All right. And like I said, when I usually warm up with something, and then my assistance is just one set. So if I do all these box squats working up, and then I get to my regular squats, well, when I go to the half squat, I only need to do one set. If I'm going to do a negative, I only have to do one set. And a negative should be roughly 10% of what you can do in a full position. All right, no more than that. So if you're squatting 600, you maybe do your negative of 660 as an example. All right, so for upper body day. So upper body day, I start off with my bench. We already talked about this a little bit in one of my previous videos. And then I work up to my top set. And then I'll do a set where I need assistance, where it's almost like a negative, and then an assistance to get it to lock out. Then I'll do one set of board presses. Then I'll do one set of incline presses. All right. And then that's my pressing part of my workout. And this is Friday that I'm doing my upper body day. And then I'll go to my bent rows, right? And I do a lot in bent rows. I go up to 500 pounds. So I'll work my way up. All right. But then when I go to do my assistance, I like to do one set of lat pull downs. Sometimes I do two, it just depends. It depends which stack I'm using too, because one of them doesn't move as easy as the other one. So that one you actually tire out faster with less weight because it gets a little bit of a drag. But then that's my lat work. So bent rows and then a set of lat pull downs. Then I will, after that, do a little bit of shoulder work. So one shoulder work thing I like to do is where you take the bar and you bring it down like this, right? I like to do where you sit down in there's a lot of these machines out there where you go like this, where if you sit in them backwards, you could use them for your reverse laterals. And I like to do that. And then I have one tricep exercise that I do. And for my bicep, I do one concentration curl set and superset it with a set of hammer curls. So I get forearms and I'm getting my biceps. And that's it. That's like my entire workout. So, but it still takes time to peak up to what your bench is going to be and what your, like, for example, my bent row is going to be. But then when I get to my assistant stuff, it's one set, because you don't need to be doing 5 sets of the same weight. You're like wasting time in there. All right, you should have a set, and then when you get to your rep goal on that weight, then you just increase it, and that way you can just do one set. All right, but anyways, that's how I put together my my upper body, my lower body days. It's because I get 7 days in between, which helps with recuperation. All right. And the exercises that I use are pretty minimal because I don't want to overtrain. So if I bring something new in, then I got to take something else out. That's how I look at it. Don't do leg presses because it's, unless it's your only leg exercise, because it's going to overtrain you. So hopefully this helps. And like I said, going forward here, I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start talking about my individual things that I do each week and kind of give you guys all the summary of what it's, what it's like, moving forward here as I actually break this in over 800-pound deadlift, right? Which I'm very excited to do. But anyways, I appreciate everybody being here. I'll talk to you soon.